Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this video. And in today's video I'll be explaining to you guys how I deal with losses. Okay, now of course this is quite a big thing in the trading industry and in the trading game itself, because of course when you're taking losses, we don't like to lose. Who likes to lose? No one, right? Of course, when you're losing money as well, we all have some degree of emotional attachment to money. So of course it can be very detrimental to your mindset, especially when you are taking losses. So let's just say you've taken losses and you're a beginner and you're new to the world of trading. I guess the number one place to start this video is, number one, always have good risk management in place, right? Because ultimately, if you have an account that you're trading, make sure that you're risking a very small percentage, 1% or less ideally, on that account per trade. Okay, now remember, of course you can risk more depending on your strategy, but again, I do advise 1% or less than 1% is very, very good, especially for intraday strategies. But again, like I say, it is strategy dependent. But ultimately what I'm saying is that if you've taken a loss or you take a few losses, then at least your account is still intact and you still have the majority of money there. Okay, at least 90% there. Okay, so you want to have the majority of your account there. Okay, that's number one. So make sure that of course you have good risk management. You know, make sure that you are risking a small percentage. Now when it comes to actually taking these losses, okay, now there's many different ways of how you can handle them. Now of course what's really happening is that you've lost money, you've lost a trade, it doesn't feel good. But also you've got to understand that this is part of the trading game, right? We all know this, that it is part of playing the probabilities. Ultimately, you are playing probabilities. You're going to take some hits, you're going to take losses, but also you want the winners to cover those losses and more, okay? So number one, definitely do understand that, but also understand that once you've taken the loss, try to journal your trade and identify why the loss occurred. For example, if it didn't fit your plan and you didn't actually execute the trade completely to your plan or to your strategy, why did you not do that? You know, journal it down. And then of course, cover all the trades at the end of the week or at the end of the day and understand, hey, why did you not, or why did I not take that trade as well as I could have and prevented that loss, okay? Now, of course, everyone makes mistakes. It's completely okay to do that. It's completely okay to execute a trade as long as the risk is managed that does not fit your plan in the beginning stage or any stage. You know, sometimes you might actually accidentally mismanage or take a trade by accident. It can happen, okay? But at the same time, it's important that you journal it and of course look back into how to prevent that happening again. So of course it's a mistake, but like all mistakes, it's important to learn from them and try your best to not make the same mistake again. That's the key point, okay? Now if you did take a trade that fits your plan and it was a loss, then this is another thing, is to say, okay, well, you know, you can also look back and reflect on it and say, okay, maybe I'm trying to understand why it was a loss, but also understand and tell yourself, hey, this is just the probabilities playing out, okay? Now, of course, if you're trading for months and months on end, and of course you are in negative after each and every month, but again, it's all fitting your plan, then also you have to ask yourself, well, is my technical edge still there? Do I have an edge on the market that is playing out in my plan? Am I being too rigid with my rules? Am I being too lenient with my rules? What's going on here? Because if you're executing fully to your plan and at the end of every month, for example, it is still in drawdown or it is still in negative, then you've got to ask, is the edge really there? Do you have to refine it in a certain way? You know, ask yourself that. But at the end of the day, this is what it comes down to, okay? You take a loss in trading, you feel the emotion there, you may feel angry, you may feel scared, you may feel like you want to quit. There's a ton of feelings that you're going to imagine, okay? But as long as your account is still intact and is still there and you've managed your risk, then of course you're there to live for another day. So take it on the chin and also say to yourself, well, you know, if you want to be a trader in the long run, it's also important to understand that, hey, this loss in the longer term, in 2-3 years time, isn't really going to matter. Why? Well, because you're here to be the best trader in the world. You're here to actually grow your accounts, have larger accounts, have more money, because of course trading is about making money, right? So once you have that mindset, that kind of long-term mindset, that anything in the short term doesn't really make or have much significance. If you're actually going to say to yourselves, well, in 1 year's time or in 2 years' time, I'd have landed a big or have full funding on a FTMO or my Forex funds or whatever prop firm it is, then you can actually say to yourself, well, does this loss right now, today, when I'm an intraday trader, really matter? It doesn't, but just to make sure that at the very least that you're analyzing it through a journal or after journaling and understanding where did that loss come from and why. Because if you're going to keep making these mistakes without analyzing it, you're more liable to make the same mistakes over a long period of time. So, you know, it's also another process of what do you tell yourself? Once you take loss, there's been many times, even from my experience, that when I've lost money or even been in drawdown, it can be very frustrating. It can hit the psychology quite hard. It can hurt you quite hard as well, not only just on the financial side, but mentally, because you're like, oh, I've taken losses. Does this work? Is trading really for me, etc., etc.? But at the end of the day, number one, we're seeing people that are making a crazy amounts of profits, okay? Not only through FTMO leaderboards, but, you know, just in the industry in general, but also understanding that how, if someone else out there can be a profitable trader, then why can't you? You know, you got to understand that. So, you know, it's also another kind of conscious thought process to say, okay, I've taken this loss today, but I'm still going to be driving every day to become the best trader I can be. This loss is irrelevant over the large sample size. I will analyze this loss. I will actually understand, will try to my best to understand why this loss occurred, if it fit my plan, if it didn't. But at the end of the day, I understand that I'm here to play the long game. So that's another way of taking it. It's the vision of the long term. It's about thinking, hey, I'm here for the long run. In the long term, of course, in the short term relative to the long term, of course, it's going to be a lot of chaos. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. But over time, it averages out to the kind of exponential growth in the long term, right? So if you imagine, I might actually draw a curve here. If you imagine, let's say, across the longer term, it's more like exponential growth like that. In the shorter term, it's going to be little ups and downs, but on aggregate or adding it all up, it should actually be fitting that exponential curve. So again, like I say, the short term doesn't really matter in terms of the long term perspective, as long as you are analyzing that trade and understanding it to the best of your ability and journaling it and understanding, well, what went wrong, what is going wrong, what can I pick up and improve. And that's another way to make your 1% improvements as a trader. Okay, so that's how I personally deal with losses. For me personally, I do have that mindset of thinking in the long term. In the long term, it's not going to matter as long as I'm analyzing it to the best of my ability. But guys, if you are taking losses and you're watching this video, understand that in trading, losses are there, okay? Make sure you manage your risk, which is most important. Losses are there, so don't worry. We have all felt it, okay? Greatest traders, all the best traders, all the seasoned traders have all felt these losses. They've either blown accounts in the early stage, they've either taken a bunch of drawdowns as they got better, but eventually they did persevere and they got there, right? So don't worry, tell yourself, don't worry. In the long term, it's not going to matter, but keep persevering. Understand why you took these losses, and tell yourself, hey, it's what you tell yourself. It's that I'm here to be the best trader in the world. I'm here to have that longer term, longer mindset, longer term thinking, because that is what it's all about. That's what investing is. That's what it's all about. It's about thinking in the long term rather than these short term fluctuations of ups and downs that can happen in our trading. Okay. So guys, if you have actually experienced drawdown or experienced losses to a certain degree, guys, please feel free to tell me how you personally actually take these losses. Is there a process that you keep in place? Do you actually just take some time away from the charts after X losses? Do you actually try to meditate every day? I mean, it can be whatever process that you've put in place that actually helps you to manage losses. Guys, please feel free to let me know down in the comment section below. I'm honestly happy to hear your suggestions. See if there's anything that we can actually use. And so tell me, what have you found effective? It's always interesting to hear what people do in terms of their process to handle these losses, okay? But anyway, for now, guys, I hope you all have a fantastic trading week ahead, and I'll speak to you guys soon. Peace.